There's four focuses that I believe every human being really need to hone in on. It's the concept of time is your most valuable asset. You don't know how much time you have. The most important currency that we have, once it's spent, it's gone. You can't go get that time back, right? You can create efficiencies with time, but you can't go get back what's already spent in terms of time. So that is our most valuable asset, is our most valuable currency is our time. Number two is our health, because if you're not healthy, you don't have as much time. We simplify it. So your health is so incredibly important, and health is wealth. Of course, your relationships. That is ultimately what you're going to remember on your deathbed, is the relationships that you cultivated. How good were you at cultivating that relationship with your family? Obviously, first and foremost, your community, and then legacy. A lot of people don't realize how much money is talked about in the Bible, and people think that it's in a different context. There's so much of a poverty mindset surrounding the perspective of what's happening in the good book. But I'll tell you what's happening in there is wisdom. It is generating wealth. The big thing that we want to avoid is the love of money, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with making Elon Musk.
So what are the secrets? How do some of the most successful entrepreneurs find the freedom that we all got into business for in the first place? How did they find the time, energy, and resources to launch and scale strong? And how do entrepreneurs like us align our time, money, and energy in a way that will allow us to reach what we set out to achieve? These are the key questions, and this community will give you the answers. Welcome to the Prosperity Movement.
Welcome, everybody, to the Prosperity U podcast. We are coming at you, first podcast of the year 2024. We're really excited to share with you guys all the wisdom that we can. We're not perfect human beings by any means, but we do strive to consistently be better people. We look at certain characteristics, kingdom characteristics of the Spirit. We're very spiritual people. We love having a relationship with God and Jesus Christ. And we see how we can utilize capitalism for the benefit of many people, right? It's really, ultimately, it's a tool that we can all be using and leveraging to better not just ourselves, but those around us. So today, obviously, being the new year, most people talk about like New Year's resolutions. So we want to talk, instead of calling it that, we're going to talk about focuses for 2024.
Simplicity is another key word, like simplicity, focus, and simplicity. For me, that's like key this year is simplify and just focus and simplify, focus and simplify.
And then based on something that Bryan and I were just chatting about, I also do want to touch on the word expectations a little bit too.
Ooh, that was a good word, man. You blew my mind this morning with that. It was really good.
Thanks. So
I needed that.
So, but first, what's our focus, right? So we've talked about in the past, we've talked about our 4 pillars of prosperity. Bryan, do you want to remind everyone what those are and how we use them?
Yeah. So, and this is, I would say it's kind of evolving for me, because there's 4 focuses that I believe every human being really need to hone in on, and it's the concept of time is your most valuable asset. You don't know how much time you have. It truly is the most important currency that we have. Once it's spent, it's gone. You can't go get that time back, right? You can create efficiencies with time, but you can't go get back what's already spent in terms of time. So that is our most valuable asset, is our most valuable currency is our time. Number 2 is our health, because if you're not healthy, you don't have as much time. We simplify it. So your health is so incredibly important, and health is wealth. Yeah, that's so cliche, but it truly is. Health is wealth. We take that, so many of us take that for granted every day. You wake up and you don't even take account of how important that is. Of course, your relationships. That is ultimately what you're going to remember on your deathbed, is the relationships that you cultivated. How good were you at cultivating that relationship is so important. Your relationships with your family, obviously, first and foremost, your community, the culture that you've built within your family, within your community. And then we used to use the word wealth. Now, I wanted to like further expound on that because really, what is wealth? Like, how does some people describe that? I want to go deeper and move away from the word wealth and use the term legacy. And there's reasons for that. I'm going to break that down on the call today, but it's based on these of looking at the first three pillars coming up to the fourth. Then from there, it's legacy. And legacy, we're going to get into a word today. We're going to open up the good book, and there is something special that is said. Like, a lot of people don't realize how much money is talked about in the Bible, and people think that it's in a different context. There's so much of a poverty mindset surrounding the perspective of what's happening in the good book. But I'll tell you what's happening in there is wisdom. It is generating wealth. The big thing that we want to avoid is the love of money, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with making Elon Musk bucks. Okay. There's nothing wrong with a person going to build that type of wealth, so long as they're doing it from a place of understanding that it's these two words. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds today, but like when you look at being a good steward, there's a bit of a word in that today too, is being a good steward. And there's a whole nother story that I would want to dive into another time, which is the story of the talents. I believe we're here to help people move from talent holder position number 1 to talent holder position number 3. Because that third talent holder understood that they were entrusted. We're not entitled. The world walks around entitled. You're not entitled to anything. My dad used to tell me that you don't have rights, you have privileges, and privileges can be taken away at any point in time. You're not entitled to anything. You are entrusted with your time. We all have the same time in the day. You are entrusted with your health. You're entrusted with your relationships. You're entrusted. And when you come from a position that all of that can be taken away at any point in time, and you understand that it's not yours, but you're entrusted with it, it can really shift things. And you'll start to see quite a bit of an increase in your life with that perspective shift.
Go ahead, Travis.
I got a question here. I loved all of that. I'm taking notes. I love you guys so much. Always teaching me stuff too. And I do see that, for one thing, the legacy, that's a little bit different than what I recall the 4 pillars being last. So I would like to dive into that more with you. But you guys also talked about simplicity and expectations. And I was kind of curious how that was tied into the simplicity and expectations going forward.
Okay, so expectations will be the last thing, because it's really a frame of mind. When you're setting core focuses for a year, there's certain frames of mind that I think people look at those things, and often they look at them as, I hope to do these things, instead of I expect to do these things. And we'll dive. I have like a cool a way to think about it that might help people understand where I'm coming from with that. But I want to dive into that after we talk about each individual pillar, and of course diving into that legacy bit, like you had mentioned. Entitled versus entrusted. That's awesome.
So do you guys want to start with simplicity?
Well, I think, simplicity. So ideally, what we were kind of looking at is like, so the four pillars is time, health, relationships, and potentially legacy. We haven't decided if we're okay with that yet, Brian.
Well, I'm doing this. You can come with me if you want, or you can sit in the old dusty pile that you've been sitting in for that night.
But if those are our 4 pillars, if you will, focuses for the year, each one of those should have kind of a 3.
Don't go too far. Can we back up now? Because now you're giving too much. And this is, I got this from you. Okay, so now I'll scratch your back a little bit. You do some good things and you say some good things, and I find they're really wise sometimes. But for example, for our company this year, you had said, can you you wanted the whole team to really focus, because we used to focus on 5 to 7 things. right? And there's a lot of things like even when you take a look at like there's books that we've pointed out, Living Forward by Daniel Harkavy and Michael Hyatt, life-changing books. Absolutely love everything in there, and he would say you have a 7 to 10 focus in the year, right? A 7 to 10, and I found that if we can dive a little deeper into a 3 focus, because that's what you did for us with this company, because we used to have a 5 to 7, I think it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Right,
And
like
that's
last year was a 5 to 7, and then
yeah.
it kind of seemed like a squirrely thing would happen. We call it the poverty squirrel, right? We want a prosperity squirrel, not a prosperity squirrel. What's the opposite of the poverty squirrel?
um, I don't know,
A
prosperity,
prosperity
something, primate.
something. Yeah, a prosperity primate. That's really cool. So we want to avoid the prosperity squirrel. And what we found in the last year is
Anybody listening, we're going to be working on those names. Okay, that's not set in stone. We'll work on that.
But last year we had this massive growth in the company, but every time we would grow something big, we'd go into dream mode and like, let's go do something else. When it was like we could have really went probably exponentially further if we didn't have all those distractions of, it's not to say that those things shouldn't be focuses. It's just because you can, does it mean you should? And is the timing right? And all those kinds of things. And so when you got us to really focus on 3 things, like this year, this is all I'm doing. This is what I'm focused on. These are the 3 main focuses in this business. That's what I'm doing. And that includes, one of the things is obviously trading focus and all that kind of stuff. Those are the 3 focuses. I know what my day looks like every single day. It's super clear. It is drawn out, and it is disciplined, and it is like no distractions. Anything outside of this, and it is considered not now, right? Because we understand the to-do list, but what does the to-don't list look like? Because the to-don't list is probably the most important list that we have. It should be. Most people don't have that, and it should be, right? So you gave me the idea of those 3, and so for the, not just the business, but then I realized, I was like, oh, well, how do I simplify this year? And I'm sitting there and I'm actually praying, like, God, show me, like, what do you want my focus to be? And so he actually highlighted 3 scriptures for me, and then 3 focuses for each pillar. So 3 focuses for my time. It was really simple. How do you focus? Actually, can I open up the graphic, the really cheesy graphic that I kind of,
the super fancy over the top editing.
Yeah. Like this thing right here. So
wow.
Yeah. So 4 pillars of prosperity, top 3 of 3 focuses for 2024. So obviously time, again, as we mentioned, is our most valuable thing. It's the most important thing that we have. So from there, it's health, relationship, family, and legacy.
So the three focuses of your time is health, relationships, family, and legacy.
Super simple. Super simple. And the power of 3 is like it's super powerful. Like, keep it simple as 1, 2, 3, right? So time, 1, health, relationships, family, legacy. And then from there, what are your 3 focuses with your health? What are your 3 focuses with your relationships and family? And what are your 3 focuses with your legacy? Right. And so for me, with my legacy, I don't have my notes in front of me, but it was like the focus with prosperity movement, the focus on my other companies, because I actually think we're going on like 6 or 7 companies at this point in time. So like, how am I managing those companies and moving those things forward? And then it's the trading. Like, those were my 3 focuses for my legacy. Family relationships, I think it was something as simple as fun, faith, and then I have to go look at the notes, but it was like how I'm spending my time with family. It was simplified in 3 simple steps. And then health is simple as, I'm tracking my macros. So I'm seeing my intake. What gets measured gets managed. I'm going to the gym consistently, and I'm getting the proper amount of rest. It was as simple as that for me. Now, everyone else might have different 3 focuses for that, but that is basically my year. That's it. That's all. And then I just prioritized it in my planner of what it looks like on a daily basis. And of course, God put on my heart these three scriptures of how I want to move forward in this year in every aspect of what I'm doing. This goes across the board. So Galatians 5:22-26 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh and its passions and desires. Since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in with the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking, and envying each other." And this is really important to me because I have not always, like, we all fall short. We all fall short, right? And I've not always operated like necessarily the best, even like this with your family. How much can you say that you're operating in these fruits of the Spirit? How much can you say that, and what is the opposite of that? It's anger, it's pride, it's envy, it's gluttony, it's all of those things, right? So are we aware of how much that we're actually operating in these things? Because when I look at legacy, what I'm going to leave behind is the experience that I left with the people that I love, right? And if I'm not focused on these things, it's easy for me to slip. And we were talking about it earlier today, Zach. I get short with my kids and what have you. In business, in our community, like, is this the culture that we're cultivating? Because I actually had a conversation with Donovan yesterday about how I was actually really quite hard on him on one of his reviews for his calls. And this is also to hold me accountable because I know I'm probably going to fall short. So what's going to hold me on course to operate in this way, right? If I make a mistake, how do I make it right? And this holds me on course to doing that. So I want to exude these things with the people in our community. I want to exude these things in my family. I want to exude this everywhere that I go. Proverbs 13:22, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous." Listen to that. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So what am I doing today that is not just impacting my family right here, right now, today, this week, this month, this year, but what am I doing right now that's going to impact their kids and their kids' kids, right? Like, so like something as simple as understanding, I know you have a thought here, so I'll tie this up really quick, but something as simple as understanding that in our businesses, I'm able from every business to actually pay my kids $15,000 a year tax deductible. That's what I'm aware of. And I can also put that into something like an RESP so that's growing at, let's say, 9% a year or what have you. That's something that you got to talk about with your financial advisors. And then that's also something that can double should they decide to go to school. Right. And all that's tactics. So these are just, we're not going to get into all those strategies, but what am I doing? The question should be what am I doing to think with intentionality on the things that I'm doing today, this week, next week, month, quarter, year, for generations to come that is catapulting my children and their children.
I love that. I love that to death because you know what that does? It calls out those that wish to just remain in mediocrity because it's easy, right? Like it's actually, all things considered, it's super easy to just get up, go to a 9 to 5. I mean, it's boring, and yeah, you'll have some bad days, but at the end of the day, you know exactly what your budget is and stuff, assuming you don't get laid off because of some virus or something, right? Like at the end of the day, it's a really simple way of life, but is it enough for you to be able to do, in this case, what a good man would do, which is leave an inheritance for your children's children? And the answer is no. And you know what? You as a person are far more capable to do significantly more than just go to a 9 to 5 job.
I think one of the biggest problems that we have, at least in this Western societies, right, is that we pretty much from childhood onward get ambition and vision beaten out of us through school and public systems, right? And so for most people that I talk to, an overwhelming majority, I would say, have the desire to leave this inheritance or anything XYZ, right? I want to be able to work from home. I want to control my time. I desire to have more money. I desire to be wealthy. I desire to be in good health, right? But the ambition has kind of been, beaten out of us to say, no, you don't, all you need to do is to finish your school, get your job, pay your taxes, and shut up, right? Like that's really what we're told the whole time. And so, of course, I said most people have the desire and not the ambition, but I also don't think most people realize the opportunities that are there as well. And that's kind of the point of having this podcast and having Prosperity Movement, is to open up these eyes to see these opportunities and present them in a way that's actually manageable for the average Joe and Jane, right? I don't think anyone's fault particularly for these things to be as they are, but it is certainly within our control to make decisions going forward, right? To be focused on those decisions, like we're talking about right now, to be able to make meaningful gains in a timely fashion. And so the more specific, the more focused that you can be, typically the better, the more efficient the results will be, right? So I just wanted to throw that in there, that, the difference between ambition and desire is very great. Everybody has the desire to make more money. The ones who are ambitious with it and are focused with it are the ones who succeed with it, right? And ambition doesn't mean going out and busting your chops forever and working hard, sweat, blood, and tears and all of that, right? It really just go in a simplistic, focused, singular direction and give yourself enough time. I think another really big thing that people have is expecting time to be as minimal as possible, in the get rich quick mentality, right? Like if I spend 2 months doing this, I'm going to succeed and be great, right? And what if that 2 months, all you needed was 12? People are so unwilling to work focused for 12 months, but they're willing to work for 40 with pretty much a guaranteed outcome that we already know. You can predict what you're going to do. If you work for someone for 40 years, most people don't have, I think it's 85% of the people don't even have $1,000 saved up in their savings. So what is that job actually doing, right? So
you're talking about ambition,
really that long, or 24 months or something. 1 or 2 years of pure focus on one thing is such a small amount of time, and yet I believe that you guys and us all believe here that it doesn't even need to be that long, right? So can we be ambitious for the short burst and for the long term too?
I just hear you when you use the word ambition. I think there's an equation there. It's ambition plus action with consistency over time, right?
Consistent action.
That's consistent action. Is that how you would describe ambition? Is consistent action?
I would say so. One thing I think about all the time is like this new mantra over the past, specifically over the past like 10 years or so, is the whole idea of massive action. The doing everything and more, and then working 10 times as much as everyone else and just working hard. And that's important. It's important to go out and bust your butt, obviously. But the difference between massive action and consistent is, I think, monumental. Okay, so imagine going to the gym on Saturdays, because that's when your schedule allows you to go. Okay, I'm not going to get into the weeds here. You go on Saturdays, you take massive action, you work out for 10 hours on Saturday. Do you think you get the same results, as good of results, as someone who goes like 3 or 4 times a week for 20 minutes?
Right.
Not even like a couple few hours, just 1 or 2 hours per week spread out consistently is a hell of a lot better than going out for 10 hours on Saturdays or 5 hours on any other 2 days, or however you want to split that up. It's not, massive action is important in certain areas, but the consistent, specific actions moving forward, right? Calculated, strategic actions consistently are going to always outperform.
That's the difference. That's the difference between momentum and traction.
And this is not just theoretical. It's not an emotional thing, like a motivational thing. It's data proven. If you get like let's say a mutual fund, okay, you put a mutual fund that has a variable rate between -4 to 15%, which is a pretty wide spread. There are some years mutual funds do not make people money. They don't realize that. They think it's always making money. And so on average, that'll probably be somewhere around an 8% return, 8 to 10% with any given mutual fund. Okay. You put that up against a consistently, return, a consistent return between 4 and 6% that doesn't have those valleys, the 4 to 6% will always return more, always giving enough time, right? And so, like the difference between, say, a 401k and putting your money into infinite banking, the 4 to 6% with infinite banking will always outperform the 401k, always. Even though there's massive gains sometimes, the massive action, right? It's the consistency that will always outperform.
Well, that's just showing up.
This is mathematically. I'm not just saying like it should. This is mathematics. So, anyways,
Yeah.
I'm excited.
But again, that's the difference between the mentality of momentum and traction. Like I hear guys talk about momentum all the time. And the problem with momentum is that it goes up and then it burns out and it comes down. Right. But when you have traction, you're constantly moving up, even if it's just a short bit, and to kind of bring your, like from a, like, let's say giving an example from working out again, I think it was St. Pierre was talking about how he, I think it was St. Pierre anyways, that talked about how he trains every day at a, like some guys go to the gym and they focus on hitting a 10, like to exhaust, complete, absolute exhaustion, like killing themselves sort of thing. Or there's another way of going about it where you're going at a 5 or 6, but you're going every day and you're creating that consistency so that you're more explosive for longer when you need to go to the 10.
Another
right?
perfect example.
Because otherwise you need way more recovery time when you go to the 10. And that's preached a lot in health and fitness, is that you need to go to complete failure, exhaustion, nothing left, and then, rest it out. Whereas there's another approach where you go to, instead of going to complete failure in 10, 5 or 6 more consistently and shorter, more consistent times. Like that's, and then when it comes to being in that moment in the cage, like you said, I'm more consistent. I've done this longer, and just not at a higher level. So then when he does go to that next level 10, he's got more gas for that burst.
So overarching message here is consistent strategic action is way more impactful, short and long term, than you will have from just the basic premise of taking massive action, right? It needs
simple
to be focus.
Yeah, simple, and I guess you can say simple and short to a degree. Yeah, short and sweet,
like Zach.
All right, so listen here. We actually
Left hook, right hook, uppercut.
We actually did tape measure my height. My kids did. Because my girlfriend didn't believe that I was 5'8", so we tape measured it. Turns out I'm exactly 5'8". So, booyah, and that's taller than Travis. Just pointing that out. Okay.
I identify as 6 foot. I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, half these people will be in Florida. They will know the truth.
I'm gonna wear my platforms.
Anyway, so that's all great. So the idea here is like simplicity, having 3 focuses for each pillar. Time, of course, is kind of self-explanatory, that being health, relationships, and legacy. One thing I do want to say is that I think the word legacy is pretty sweet, because sometimes if we use finances, the word finances just sounds complex. It's like a little scary, especially if you haven't had great finances in life. You're like, ugh, finances. Wealth, on the other hand, kind of sometimes people think wealthy people are greedy, so they put like negative connotations to that word. But legacy is naturally a selfless thing. You're like
long lasting.
What you're leaving behind after you're gone, right? It's not thinking about yourself at all. So I kind of like that. I don't know. It's growing on me.
Well, actually, we didn't finish what I had here on screen, so let me open that up again. But yeah, like again, so to add to what you're saying, Titus 1:7-8, for an overseer as God's steward. Okay, like think of this from some of the ways that James talks about what gets measured gets managed, right? But from an overseer as God's steward must be above reproach. He must not be arrogant,
or quick-tempered, or a drunkard, or violent, or greedy for gain. Must not be greedy for gain, but hospitable, a lover of good, self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined. Disciplined. This is all in conjunction with this first one. It's the fruits of the spirit. When you can hone in on not the self-righteousness that most people walk around with, me, I, and you look at the bigger, more intentional focus of the impact and the purpose that you have because of the impact that you're constantly leaving behind. You don't realize this. I went to a coaching seminar last year in Texas, and it completely changed my life. There was a game that we ended up playing. I'm not allowed to say it because I actually signed a contract for it, but ultimately what it made me realize is that most of us don't realize the impact that we have, and we don't realize the mess that we're leaving behind in self-righteousness. We don't realize how much that when we're walking around in our own selfish desires, that we are actually a walking, ticking time bomb that's leaving a mess behind us.
Yeah.
So how do you leave a message behind for the ones that you care about and your legacy and the kids that you have? It's by being disciplined, being a good steward. It's showing up with consistency, the way that we've been describing over and over again. And that's showing up with consistency in every aspect of these 4 pillars. So
Love it.
what does that look like?
Yeah. And that's for you guys to answer on your own. Pray about it. Talk to your spouse about it, or your friend, whoever your accountability partner is, right? And come up with a very simple plan. I do want to talk about expectations. So, I think a lot of times what happens is when people do set focuses and things like that, they're looking at these things like, I know that I'm probably not going to do this the entire year. I'm motivated to right now, but statistically speaking, these focuses, they get distracted, things happen, life happens. So what they do to guard against disappointing themselves is they don't look at setting focuses as like a hard rule or an expectation. Instead, they look at it as a hope and say, well, hopefully I'll do these things. And this is like a subconscious thing. And so I want to change that for you. I want you to basically what you have to do, and this is very challenging for some people, you kind of have to forget about all the previous failures, the previous times that you did not accomplish these focuses, and create them as an expectation. And here's a good way to start kind of shifting your perspective on that. We've all heard the saying, and this is a solid saying. We've all heard the saying, you hope for the best, plan for the worst, right? We've all heard that. I've used it. It's good. That's a solid saying. My question is, within that saying, where can you put the word expect? Do you hope for the best and expect the worst? Because that's kind of, if you're planning for the worst, right, you're kind of expecting the worst. So that kind of naturally fits there. But what if you expected the best and planned for the worst? Right? So now you're not hoping for the best, you're expecting the best. Right? And this was coming about we were talking about some of our business goals and stuff. And Bryan was like, well, I think, we have this for a goal or whatever, because compared to, our worst month ever, this is really good. And I'm like, no, why aren't we comparing to the best month ever? Right?
Throw me under the bus that I had a moment where I was falling short,
You expect
it was a really good. I need coaching too, man. Like this was a really
so
cool
do I.
moment for me, especially today. Yeah.
So if you expect the best, but you plan for the worst, that's in my opinion, the best balance you can have. So when you create these simple focuses, expect that you're going to actually do it. You're going to take action. You're going to have these small, consistent actions that you take throughout the year that's going to accomplish what you're looking to accomplish. Expect that. And then plan if things start going the wrong way. What are you going to do? Who's your accountability partner? How are they going to help you? That's my suggestion, guys, for you to actually do what you say you're going to do this year and actually hit the goals that you have set in place for 2024. Expect it.
So good. So good. So good. Yeah, expect the best and plan for the worst. I love how you like, where are you putting the word expect? What's the original cliche line again? Hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Yeah.
Hope for the best, plan for the worst. And so where are you putting the word expect is how you positioning that. Where did you get that from? Was that just inside you, or you hear it somewhere? Like,
I've actually been thinking about it a lot. There's always been the word expectation has always been like, I don't know, I kind of feel like there's a connotation of fear surrounding it, because what if I don't live up to an expectation?
Mhm.
And so there's always like that what if, and I can't help but I just kept thinking, like, is that holding people back? Because fear, we know, holds people back. So if they don't want to set a high expectation because of fear, well, then they're not even going to get close to what they want. Right. And so then I started thinking about the hope for the best, plan for the worst concept. And I'm like, I don't want to hope for the best. I want the best. Right. So I started like kind of play anyway. I was playing around with these ideas for my own podcast, but it just kind of came up today, and I was like, okay, well, let's, Brian's like, we need to talk about that in the podcast. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I like playing with language stuff. I think the words you use and the words you think make a huge difference on what you do.
I was just hit with something when, I don't know why, but like I was just reminded of the got to I need to. I just realized this is something that I want to work on for this year. Just it's such a huge thing, and I think we've talked about it on a previous podcast. But like with my son, while I was hanging up with him here, I said, I gotta go. How many times do we say we gotta go? Well, you don't gotta need to do nothing. You want to go based on I made a commitment.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like shifting that. You don't gotta need to do nothing. You never gotta need to do nothing. And like even saying that to the people you love, it almost deflates and brings the importance down for them, right? And I want better for my kid. Like it might seem small, but it's actually big to me just thinking of that. I just told my kid that I gotta go. No, Daddy made a commitment for this. I'm gonna chat with you later. So it's such a small thing, but that over time is going to build an understanding of, hey, Daddy's being disciplined with the decision he made versus you're not important.
Yeah.
I gotta go. You're not the main priority right now. I gotta go.
Yeah.
It's such a small tweak that I think can make a world of difference. So that's something I want to work on too.
Another mantra that I've been thinking about lately, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it personally, but I think it's more common than I think, is the idea of have, do, be. Have you guys heard of that concept, the have, do, be?
Yes.
The idea, we were talking about the gym earlier, so let's just bring that one up again. I think it's the easiest way for at least me to like conceptualize some of these concepts, or I guess visualize some of these concepts. But the mantra that a lot of people have is that if I had a better body, like if I was more fit, right, if I had that fitness, I would do more things to be the people who are fit do, and therefore I would be healthy.
Lack mentality. Yeah.
But it needs to shift, right? The idea is like if I would be healthy, in other words, the think and act and behave in a certain manner, right? If I was just to be healthy, I would do the things that healthy people do, and I would have a healthy body. Like they need to switch it, right? And it's the same thing with money, right? In finances as well. The same thing with everything is if I had more money, I would do what the wealthy people do, and then I would be wealthier. It's like, no. If you were to revert that over, and if you were to be someone and act like someone that were to produce wealth, then you would have more of it. Like you got to start somewhere. And the vast majority of the people that I follow, look up to, and have been mentored by it was the rags to riches story. Some of them less rags, but some of them had nothing growing up, reused their wrapping paper at Christmas, literally poverty, right? And they have become ultra successful financially. And it's not that they had more money to do what wealthy people do, it's that they were going to be like the people who are of what they want, so that they'll do more of the things that are necessary to see those changes and eventually obtain those changes that come. It's a reversal of what most people think, and it's the difference between the poverty mindset and the prosperity mindset. In other words, from hope to expectations, from entitled to entrusted, from rights to privileges, right? Like changing the way that you start it is going to be one of the biggest predictors of how you're going to end it, right? And so if you are going to hope that you get into better shape or hope that you're going to quit smoking, buddy, how long until you think you're going to revert back to where you are, right? Because you're going to be first. So
I love that, and it just reminds me of David. It reminds me of David. What did that guy start as a sheep herder? Which was at that time, it was the lowest, the lowest kind of place you could be in the totem pole. And then he goes on to,
like nowadays, it's the equivalent of like a Biden supporter.
Yeah,
the lowest of the low of humanity.
So he goes from being a sheep herder. It goes from being a sheep herder to comforting the king, to fighting Goliath, killing Goliath, becoming a general, and then moving on to becoming king, and then not only becoming king but having a son that becomes the wealthiest man that has ever set foot on the earth, Solomon, right? And like he just from, like you said, rags to legacy. Let's go past riches to legacy. He passed down legacy, and then ultimately, I mean, he was also a relative of Jesus Christ himself. So really, really powerful.
Very cool. Well, Bryan, do you want to sign us off here? What can people do if they're interested in joining the prosperity movement? Which, by the way, tons of interest right now. Our calendar halfway through Tuesday was full for the entire week. So
we had over 30 bookings yesterday.
Yeah.
30 bookings. I've never seen the advertising operating on the level that it is right now. I'm looking forward to seeing where those stats.
There's a ton of interest. So if you want to be a part of our movement and actually build out your legacy and using some of the strategies that we have proven to work, then what should they do, Bryan?
I just go to prosperitymovement.online, and at the bottom of the page on the right-hand corner, just shoot us a message. What should the keyword or key phrase be for them if they just want to pop it in the chat?
Legacy. Let's make it legacy.
Legacy. Just pop legacy in that little chat, put in your information, and we'll actually send you our blueprint, completely complimentary, and get you aligned to the blueprint is for two main purposes. One, to figure out whether or not this truly is the best fit for you, and two, to help prepare you for your success. We've seen increased success in people that have gone through the blueprint. It prepares them to properly get the proper efficiency and mindset and the plan so that they can manage properly and move forward to back engineer their success on the other side. So super simple. ProsperityMovement.online, legacy in the chat at the bottom of the right hand bottom corner of the page, and we will see you soon.